Greetings from Rota Club of Yelahanka. So here with us, we have our speaker, Adarsh Ishwarappa. And first of all, before we start off the event, my prayers to all those victims who are affected in Vizag and in the current pandemic of Corona, COVID-19. And with that, I could hear a few news from Ahmedabad, the train running over a few labors. So my deep prayers to all of them. And over to our secretary, Varun Adhyapak.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Untold Chronicles, presented by Rotary Club of Yelahanka. Before we start the session, I just want to give you all a brief about this session and the theme. So, Untold Chronicles is an initiative taken by us where Rotaract is part of many youngsters and young aspiring people who are part of Rotaract. So, we have other young people also who are not part of Rotaract joining us today. So, we all have many dreams to follow, many dreams to achieve, and we all have to build our career in this age in our life. So, the main intention was for all of us was to have such achievers and people who have very nice journey so that they can come us and talk about their journey and inspire us. So talking about Adarsh Ishwarappa sir, he is well-known film director, editor. He has been awarded by Karnataka State Award, and also he's been speaker in many of the TED talks as well. So we are very great and honored to have you here, sir, because this is our first initiative which we have taken, and we have Adarsh sir being part of our first speaker session. So we are very proud to have you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, my TED talk was back in November last year. So much has changed in 2020. It doesn't seem to be a good year for a lot of people, for everyone, for the whole world, actually. So, hoping for the best. Okay, to start off, I'm a mechanical engineer, and uh, unlike many other people in engineering who say that their parents pushed them to take up engineering. In my case, it was me. I did my diploma in mechanical engineering, and then after finishing my diploma is when I decided that I want to be an engineer. So my initial, reason behind choosing engineering was like any other person of my age was to take up a job and or maybe go to the US, do MS and settle there, something like that. So there was a 1 year gap between my diploma and engineering. I couldn't get my engineering seat the first time I tried for it because of my ranking and all of that. So that 1 year I spent, then there was nothing to do basically. I mean, I don't come from like a very well-off family, so I saw a dark phase of my life, I should say, during that 1 year. I did a lot of odd jobs during that time. That's when I understood the seriousness of having education, and that's when I decided that I definitely, hook or crook, I want to do my engineering. So somehow the next year, I got an opportunity to give a CET exam once again. That was a newly introduced, format for diploma students. I wrote the exam. I got a better ranking, and I was finally I secured a seat in Sir MBIT in Yelahanka. That's where I did my engineering. That was my first kind of an achievement back then, getting a seat for engineering. I also made a film about it. Before Shuddhi, I made a film called BE Mech. You can find the trailer on YouTube. It was very much my own experience. 50% of the film is from my own experience. And then when I joined engineering, as I said, I was very, very serious about studies. I used to travel in BMTC bus back then, 2 to 3 hours of traveling every day, come back home, study, again, wake up in the morning, study, go to college. So that's how it was. So till the fifth semester, I was actually very, very serious about my studies because I knew that I have to get a good percentage, get a placement in the college, or maybe, as I said, go to the US to MS and all of that. But during the sixth semester is when I gave a performance, a dance performance in the college. So dance is not new to me. I mean, I have been a passionate dancer from my childhood. I used to give performances in family get-togethers, and also the Ganesha festival, what they do, orchestra and all of that back then. I used to dance on the stage. That was I'm not a trained dancer, but I used to do that. So when this opportunity came around in the sixth semester, where a college day was happening, and there was this a 10-minute dance drama where the Battle of Kurukshetra was portrayed in form of a dance drama called Ashtadasha. So that I would say is a turning point of my life, because when I gave the performance, as in it's a team of about 12 people, uh, we got such a tremendous response from the audience. We also took that performance to various other colleges and gave the performances into college festivals. We won prizes everywhere. That's when I once again reconnected with my passion of towards dance, which was from the childhood. From there on, I wouldn't say I lost interest, but my focus towards studies slightly shifted towards dance choreography. I started representing my college dance group, and several other performances down the lane. Sixth semester, seventh semester, by eighth semester, I myself, as a solo dance performer, as well as my group, we had given so many performances in different colleges, won a lot of prizes. You won't believe, 2 weeks before my exam in the eighth semester, I was in my college giving a performance. Though most of my classmates were at home studying, I was giving a dance performance. I was that crazy about it. Uh, so it was in the seventh semester when a very ambitious dance piece which I composed. It's a 12-minute dance piece that was portraying the first evolution of independence till the current India. It's a fusion of songs. You can still find that on YouTube, the dance performance. So this dance performance, a very ambitious dance performance, we performed in several colleges and won a lot of prizes. But in this one college called Nitai Meenakshi in north of Bangalore, near Saravati IT, it's a very big festival. We performed. We got great response from the audience. They were all screaming once more, and all of that. But finally, we were disqualified because of the time limit, and number of people on stage and all of that. That was a very heartbreaking moment for me back then. Now it might sound silly, but back in that at that time, it was really, really heartbreaking. So I went back home, spent about 3 days, locked myself up at home, and started thinking, introspecting about, why did this happen to me? I mean, I joined engineering with a totally different objective, but now my route changed to something else, and now I'm here. So why would this happen to me? So in those 3 days is when I kind of discovered what I want to do in life. You know, once again, becoming a film director. When I say I discovered my passion, I discovered my purpose of my life. It doesn't mean that it just came out of the blue. When I look back now, in my diploma days, in my school days, I was always passionate about films. I had also written a small story in my diploma days, and I didn't know what I would do with it. Would I be a director or an actor or writer? I didn't know about. I didn't know what I would do. But in those 3 days when I started introspecting is when I realized, okay, I want to be a film director, because dance choreography is pretty much the same thing. You take work from people. That's what you do as a director as well. So finally, in those 3 days, when I took the decision, the next big risk I took was to not take up any campus recruitment interviews in the college, because seventh and eighth semesters is when a lot of companies visit your college and the placement happens. About 90% of my classmates got placed, but I intentionally did not give any interview, because my plan was to pass out of engineering and take up a job in the call center, work in the night shift, and spend my daytime, towards this workshops, filmmaking workshops, and spend time on preparing myself to become a filmmaker. But I passed out of the engineering, and then I realized, when I started giving interviews, I gave about 10, 15 interviews in different companies. My English language was not that good. I had something called a mother tongue influence in my language, and I couldn't hold a conversation in English language for more than a minute. It was so bad. So I didn't know the importance of it back then, but once I got rejected in about 15, 20 companies, the very first round, saying that my language is bad, I had to go back and take up a 2-month class to neutralize my English accent and improve my communication skills. So I spent about 2 months doing that. That was an institute in Infantry Road in Shivaji Nagar. And after 2 months, I think I gave 3 more interviews. And in the third interview, I finally got my first job. It's a company by name Repcol in JP Nagar. My first salary was about 9,000 rupees. October 6th, 2010, no, I'm sorry, 2006 actually. So from there on, my journey in the corporate world started. I worked with that company for about 1 year, and then I moved on to IBM, where I worked for 2 years, and then I moved on to Dell, where I worked for another 1 year. So in these 4 years of working with those corporate companies, my routine was, uh, go to office, come back. It was all night. It was a night shift job, so I had to work throughout the night, come back home, and there was a habit that I developed, which was to watch one film per day, one foreign film per day, or to be specific, one American film per day. That's how I started my preparation to become a filmmaker. So in a matter of 4 years, I ended up watching like 2000 odd films. And by the end of fourth year, when I was working with Dell, is when I came across this film institute called New York Film Academy in Los Angeles, Hollywood. It was a pretty affordable, course. I mean, affordable as in I had to obviously take a risk with respect to like withdrawing my PF and quitting my job and all of that. But the first challenge there was to get the US visa, because getting a US visa, student visa especially, is not easy. You would know that. I went to Chennai for my visa interview. I got accepted by the school. It was very straightforward. I had to just write an essay about why I would want a seat, why I would want to become a filmmaker. That was, that was easy. But getting the US visa was a challenge, as I said. So I went to Chennai, and two questions, the visa was rejected. So the immigration officer said that, since I'm an engineer going for a short-term filmmaking course, I would be categorized as a potential immigrant. And I was rejected. I came back home once again. I was so disappointed. 2 3 days again, I started looking for film schools within India. Since I cannot go to US now, I have to find something within India. But I don't know what pushed me to do that. In 2 or 3 days, I got my salary for the month. I withdrew the salary and applied for the visa one more time. So about 3 to 4 days from the time I got rejected for the US visa, I was back in Chennai once again to give my visa interview second time in a matter of within a week actually. And this time I got my visa. That was a big victory. Came back home, and I told my manager that I'm going to quit the job. Very supportive actually. So I resigned my job, and 2010 November is when I flew to Los Angeles, and spent about 3.5 months in LA doing this filmmaking course. It was one of the sweetest experiences of my life. I still want to go back to LA just to relive that moment. It's a nostalgic moment for me. The speciality about this course was that we were about 12 to 15 people in the class, and there were hardly any Americans. There were just about one or two people who were Americans. The remaining people were from different countries. It was a very diverse kind of class. There were people from Indonesia, Peru, Netherlands, a lot of different countries. So it was great, working with them as a team and making those short films and learning the art of filmmaking. So my plan was to come back to India and join as an assistant director with one of the local directors here in Canada, and then probably work my way up to become a director. That was the plan I had in mind. But by the time I came back to India, I was in a debt of about 4.5, 5 lakhs, because I had withdrew my PF and I had taken some debt to go to the US, obviously. So once I came back to India, working as an assistant director back then was not a job that would pay you. You had to do it for free. I was not in a position to work for free at that point of time. I once again went back to the corporate world. Same night shift job. I joined Unisys, the same, 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning job. During that, I worked for 3 years with Unisys, and in those 3 years, I made one more short film and one feature film called BEMEC. I told you just now about my engineering, an experience from my engineering, my journey to take the engineering seat. So I made that film. It was all made while I was working with the company. I didn't quit my job. I took a leave, like 1 month loss of pay leave, and I shot this film called BEMEC. Back then, Ram Gopal Verma had just shown the film industry that you can shoot a film with a 5D camera and it can be projected on a big screen in the multiplex and it will look good. That he was the first person to do it, major filmmaker. That was a big inspiration to a lot of people like me, and I used Canon 7D to shoot this feature film. It was a 2 hour film actually, and it was made in a budget of just about two lakhs. We didn't spend more than that. We shot for about 30 days. It was not made to release. It was not the intention behind making the film was to just get an experience of making a feature film, because making short films is a different ball game, making feature film is a different ball game. So I wanted that experience of making a feature film, and that's why we made that film BMX. And we screened it for a few people from the industry. There were 2 or 3 shows that we did. A few celebrities from the industry came, watched it. There were a few newspaper articles that were written about the film. And the person who produced that film BMX, his name is Madesh Bhaskar, and his wife Nandini Madesh. So they said, okay, if you are making a film for let's say 50 lakhs, we would be interested to invest in the film. That was a big opportunity for me. So then that's when I started thinking about my first feature film for a theatrical release. I spent a couple of months, like 3 to 4 months, thinking about the idea for the film. See, because back then the industry was still not open to so-called parallel cinema. It was all the mass film that you would see. So how do I make a mark? With just a 50 lakh budget film without any stars. That was the biggest challenge for me. That's when I started, going through different ideas. What can my film be about? And I came across this video of the protest that took place post the Nirbhaya incident in Delhi. It was a 3.5 minute video, and by the time I finished watching it, I was in tears. And that was a first spark for my debut film, Shuddhi. You see the poster here. So the backdrop of the film was, the Nirbhaya incident that happened in Delhi. That was one of the ideas, and then the second idea was to bring an American girl and make her play a protagonist in an Indian film. That was not very common. You can only name a very few films which have a foreign protagonist. You can name, like Rang De Basanti is one of the films. Apart from that, you don't see foreigners playing protagonists in an Indian film. That was another USP of the film. So blending these two ideas, I spent about 9 months working on the screenplay of the film. I was still working with Unisys. I didn't quit my job. Once I was done with the script, I took it to the producer and I presented it to him, and he was very happy with the story. But the budget was 50 lakhs was not sufficient to make the film. I told him, we need 1 CR because it's a little larger scale. He was so impressed with the story that he agreed to invest in the film. So my next request was, I have to quit my job. I cannot shoot this film like where I took a leave and I finished the entire film. This is a lot of money is at stake, so I have to spend 2 to 3 months on the pre-production of the film, shoot the film, and do a post-production. All over, it might take about 1 year for me to complete this film. So I have to quit my job. If I quit my job, I have my EMIs, I have my bank loan, I have my house rent. So I have 45 to 50,000 rupees of commitment every month. So I requested him, if you can please help me with that 50,000 rupees per month. Don't take it as a remuneration. It's like a salary till I finish this film. I would love to quit my job and work on this film. He agreed for it, and May 2013, 2014, I'm sorry, is when I quit my job with Unisys. And May, June, July, August. So I spent about 4 months on the pre-production of the film. My cinematographer is actually from the US. My music composer is from the US. My actress, the main actress, is also from the US. So every day I used to sit on Skype with them and figure out the pre-production used to happen on Skype, most of it. Apart from that, here I had to go for the location scouting and do the casting of the remaining characters in the film. So it was about 4 months of work. September 2014 is when we started shooting the film. We shot it for about 54 days in and around Karnataka. And finally, by the time we finished shooting the film, we were actually out of money. There was no funds left. So to start editing the film, I had to purchase a new hard drive, which would cost about 15,000 rupees. We didn't have money even to buy a hard drive. That was the situation after we finished shooting the film. So, what do I do for my EMIs? I mean, I don't even have money to buy the hard drive. So, what do I do for my EMIs? It was a very tough situation. I decided to wait. I thought, okay, let me just sit back for about 1 or 2 months and see. Let me give some time to the producer to figure out how we can work this out. I gave about 3 months. So every month I was not working. There was a 50,000 rupees burden on my head. There was about 1.5 lakh burden by the end of 3 months. I couldn't wait anymore. So I requested one of my friend to give me some money, with which I bought the hard drive, and I once again went back to the corporate world. I joined Goldman Sachs. I started working in the night shift once again, 10 o'clock in the night till 7 in the morning. So for the next 2 years was the next really dark phase of my life where I have done shooting. I'm done shooting the film, but I'm not able to bring it out. So in those 2 years, I started doing the post production of the film. So 6 months into the corporate world, once again, I knew that I was eligible for another personal loan. So I had to take another personal loan and use that funds to for the post production of the film. Finally, March of 27, February of 2017 is when we launched the trailer of the film. And once we completed the post production of the film, I got the producer, I showed him the film, first copy, he loved it. And he was able to arrange the money that is required to release the film. February 2017, we launched the trailer of the film, and people loved it. It was trending at number 3 on YouTube, and we got a lot of distributors who came forward to showing interest to release the film. So March 2017 is when Shuddhi was released. The film went on to complete a 100-day theatrical run in PVR Forum and Cinepolis. We got tremendous appreciation from the audience. It got a critical acclaim as well as a decent commercial success. And as you said, Karnataka state government also declared it as the best film of 2017, and I was awarded the best director of 2017. And the icing on the cake was Netflix coming forward to buy the film. There were very few Kannada films on Netflix back then, so it was a great moment. They paid well as well. So right now, Shuddhi is actually streaming on Netflix. So because of all the mileage I got from, and also I quit the job. I have to tell you that I used to work with Goldman Sachs. After the trailer launch of Shuddhi happened, my producer once again agreed to take care of my expenses till the film releases. So I quit my job, and post Shuddhi, it's been great. I mean, because of the mileage I got from Shuddhi, I got producers for my second film titled Bhinna. Another 2 years of journey with the second film. The producers, it's Purple Rock Entertainers is the name of the production house. Uh, After completing Shuddhi, they liked Shuddhi and they came forward to produce the second film. So the second film did not see a theatrical release, but it went as the first ever Kannada original to ZEE5. ZEE5 bought the film for a really good money. And right now, my second film, Bhinna, is streaming on ZEE5. So and yeah, before the film came on ZEE5, there were several international film festivals where Bhinna was won a few awards as well. Right now, I'm writing my third film, and I did not go back to my corporate job. Thankfully, the last I worked was when I when I finished Shuddhi. Shuddhi released. That's when I quit my job. So it's been a great time. I mean, right now, as I said, I have a few people interested to produce my third film, and I'm thinking of making it a much larger scale compared to the first two films. The first two films budget was around 1 crore and 80 lakhs. Now I'm planning for something bigger. It's a challenge once again because that's how I look at it. This COVID-19 was something that was very unexpected. No one expected this to happen. If this had not happened by now, I would have probably gone for the pre-production of my film. But since this happened, you know, I feel we have to accept the fact that it is going to take time. Every business will have to stop for a while, and then we have to restart again and go ahead. So I'm using this time, whatever I'm getting now, 3-4 months of doing nothing. I'm writing script. I'm jotting down ideas with which I can make more films in the future. So that's what I've been doing right now in this quarantine time. Yeah. So that was my journey from engineering to becoming a filmmaker. So yeah, any questions you have, I would love to answer. And throughout my journey, one thing I realized was no matter which field you want to get into, I think the most important character is patience. Because I mean, you might be talented and all that, but if you don't have the patience to wait for things to work out, it's not going to happen. And also the conviction. No matter the odds are against you, you should have the hope that things are going to work out someday. In those 2 years when I was working with the corporate world after Shuddhi, before the release of Shuddhi, that's what happened with me. I mean, pretty much I had a feeling that everyone left hope about the film. This film is not going to come out, is what people thought. But I never lost hope. Okay, I'm like, I'm going to make sure this film comes out. So it was my patience and it was my probably never give up attitude, as they call it, that worked in my favor. And yeah, that's my takeaway from this experience. So anything, any questions? I would love to answer.
So thank you so much, sir. It was actually a very inspiring journey. So I
Thank you.
think by your story, what you told, one thing we can take away is that any middle class person, if the dream is high, can achieve anything. So
Absolutely.
now we open for questions. Please do comment your questions so that I can ask sir. So I have questions personally. One question from my
Yeah.
end, sir. So this current situation which is happening, you are in a profession wherein you have to go out, you have to go search for your location or direct. So you are in direction into filmmaking and everything. How are you managing yourself of being calm? Because there are so many other people who are going through anxiety or panic attacks, or not, their
Yeah.
mind is not stable because of situations, let's say staying at
Yeah.
home or anything. So
Yeah.
how are
Yeah.
you managing, not thinking about future or whatever?
See, I have to be honest with you. I'm not a guy who has seen a big success as yet in the industry. So my bank balance is not like, you know, so much. So like during the post Bhinna, I did a few. I go as a teaching faculty to a few filmmaking schools and all. So I had some money to read to go through this quarantine period. I should say that I would probably run out of money in the next 2 or 3 months. That's my situation as well. But as you say, it's very challenging. I have to figure out a way. I have to somehow, one is obviously I have to finish my current script which I'm writing, and I have to, jump onto the next boat as soon as possible. Uh, it is very tricky. I never expected this to happen. Somehow I decided to stop what is required for the next 3 months. Even if I don't work, I should be able to manage for 3 months. That's I don't know why I did that, but thankfully that is helping me in this quarantine time. But post that, even I don't know what I would do. I mean, I have to obviously. I mean, I have hope. Once again, as I said, you should have the hope that things are going to work out, and you'll move on to the next. Maybe after I finish my third film, probably I will not be in a situation where my bank balance would be low. It's going to get better. I'm confident about it, because if I look at my situation post Shuddhi and post Bhinna, it has been better, because post Shuddhi, every month was difficult. I had to really struggle to find money for every month, my commitments. Post Bhinna, I had the money what is required for the 6 to 8 months after I finish the film. So after the next film, maybe I'll be better. So just keep hoping.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, Varun, I'll go ahead. I have one question from my end.
Yeah.
Before that, it was really an inspiring journey, sir. We are indeed inspired by this. And
Thank you.
my question is directly into your industry and profession. So
Hmm.
now the competition of 200 films being released per year, in
Mm.
just average, and then
Yeah.
and adding on to that, you have Amazon Prime, Netflix, Z5, Hotstar, and so many other online apps and softwares coming up.
Yeah.
So the competition is really high, and then the
Yeah.
production of movies and the movie makers are also into this. So, what is your view on this, and how do you judge this success? Not exactly judge the success, but how do you rate it when compared to the earlier traditional way of movie releasing in only in theaters? That too, not multiplexes,
Yeah.
a single screen theaters. So, to be
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, see, I'm a big fan of watching films in theaters, and I'm not really so. What do I say? I cannot say I don't support OTTs, because people are actually that probably is going to be the way forward. I'm not saying theaters will vanish; theaters will still be there, but people are there. There are people who watch films on OTTs as well. uh, I would say there should be a balance. If you are making a film for an OTT, you make a film for an OTT. That's going to be a different scale altogether. But when you make a film for a theater, it will be for theater. And that's it. If you take my two films, Shuddhi was a film that released in theater. It had a good success, and then it went to an OTT. But Binna was a film. It was made for theater, but the producers had to it was a business call to go to OTT directly instead of going to theater. It was not completely in my control, unfortunately. If I had a choice, I would have definitely brought Binna to theater as well, because watching the film in theater is a different experience altogether. Because OTT, I don't know how many people will have. will wear a good earphone and watch a film on a Netflix or a Z5 or any other platform for that matter, because you cannot watch a film on OTT like how you watch it on a television, walk around and do all of that. If you take a film like Binna, my second film, for example, it's a very intense experience. You cannot pause the film in between, go out, come back. That will not happen in the theater. Once you are in, you have to watch the entire film and then walk out. So that experience is what would be missing when you're watching a film on OTT. If you don't know how to watch a film on OTT. So the trend is, we have to adapt. There is no other way out. Even I have to accept the fact and, maybe go with the flow. There is nothing that I can change about it. That's the way forward, especially because of what is happening now, COVID-19. I think OTT platforms are like, people, that's the only saving grace. I think people are sitting at home. They don't have anything else to do. Even me, for that matter, even I'm watching a lot of Netflix and Amazon and all of that. So it's changing times, but that doesn't mean that theaters will go away. Theaters are still going to be there, and OTT will also survive. It will be like a balance between the both of them. That's what I feel. And competition being high is good, is what I feel. See, because a lot of substandard stuff will be pushed aside. So whatever you see will be good quality stuff. No matter how big a star, no matter how much money you spend on a film, if the content is not good, audience will not take it. That's what I've seen in the recent times. A lot of really big stars. If you take the big Bollywood stars, I think back 2 years ago, all their films were a disaster. In 2018, I think all the Khan films were a disaster. I think it's Ayushmann Khurrana's film that did well in that year. So that shows, the content is winning. It's no longer about the stardom or the money you spend on a film, which is good, actually.
So, sorry to interrupt. Adding on to this, I have another thing to say.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in one of your TED talks, you just related your life to few of the film dialogues, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think most of them have watched it. I just surely hope they watch it again. So,
Yeah.
can you just run through it again, if possible, if you don't mind?
See, I would compare my journey to the film Shawshank Redemption. That's the most reference I took in that TED talk. So whoever has seen Shawshank Redemption, you would know the character of Tim Robbins, that is Andy Dufresne, is the name. Then there is Morgan Freeman, whose character is Red. So this is how I equated my journey. I said that the prison in the film is like the corporate world for me, where I'm not. There is no disrespect to corporate world. It really helped me to survive during those tough times. But equating it with the film, so if I call it the prison, I said the poster of Rita Hayworth on the wall that Andy Dufresne has in this cell. That was like the short films I made or the workshops I took. All the preparation I did to get into the industry. So behind that poster, I was digging a tunnel to go out of the prison, and finally I made it out to freedom. That was the one film that I can think of. There was a quote which I also ended that TED talk with. It goes like this: Andy Dufresne, who crawled through a river of shit and came clean on the other side. Andy Dufresne headed to the Pacific. So Pacific, in my view, in my profession, is, as I said, making bigger films for a larger audience. So yeah, that was about it. And I also spoke about Heath Ledger's dialogue, Joker dialogue. Madness is like gravity; all it needs is a little push. So that is once again something which I have experienced myself, because most of the decisions I took throughout this journey. For example, if you take the very first big decision of not taking campus recruitment interviews, that is a big thing. That is madness, as they say. So all it needs is a little push, which was like me, okay, believing that okay, it's going to work out, and then going for a visa interview second time. That was also a madness. Quitting my corporate job so many times was also a madness, and taking a big loan to fund my film when things were not working out, that was also madness. There were so many decisions I took which people would probably say it's madness, but it needed a push which I gave it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. We have one question from Atireya Prasad. So
Yeah.
he wants to know what was the driving force into field of cinematography from mechanical engineering.
Okay. Driving force, as I said once again, see, I have had this inclination towards films from childhood. My father is actually used to be a theater actor. Even my grandfather used to be a theater actor, so maybe the connect was from there. I don't know. But I have had this craze towards films from my school days. I mean, I used to watch one film per week in theater for sure, every week. That has been like a ritual throughout my childhood. At what point I decided to become a film director, I told that already, but my inclination towards films was always there. It was, see, once again, this cannot be like a very conscious decision. M. Night Shyamalan, you know M. Night Shyamalan, director M. Night Shyamalan, right? The guy who made Sixth Sense. So he says in an interview, I mean, if you have a choice, like, you want to become a doctor, you want to become an engineer, you want to become a filmmaker, you cannot choose filmmaking as a choice. You can choose filmmaking only when the entire world is against you. He literally says that your girlfriend has left you, your parents have lost hope in you, nothing is going as the way you want, but still you want to become a filmmaker. Only then you choose filmmaking. It cannot be like a choice between an engineering, doctor, medical, or filmmaking. So yeah, that's how it is. You need that kind of see, because after finishing engineering or medical, you will eventually land a job. Maybe 2 or 3 years down the lane, you will eventually land some job and you will start earning some kind of money. But that's not the same with film industry. You have to work for 10 to 15 years to start seeing some kind of money with which you can survive. So I'm an example for that. I've made 3 films and I'm still, I'm yet to figure out that, to see how to survive in this industry. So it's a tough business to break into. If you are really passionate about it, if you really want to do it from the bottom of your heart, no matter how many odds you have to face, only then I would say go for it and have the patience for things to work out.
We have another question from Purushottam. He
Yeah.
wants to know what is your suggestions for upcoming professionals who are aspiring to take up this career of cinematography or cinematography.
See, I
What are
mean,
your suggestions for?
yeah. See, I would say in today's times, I mean, if, is he working in some corporate world? See, if he's in a corporate world, I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. If you're working in a company in, say, Whitefield, for example, I stay in JP Nagar. So if you're working in Whitefield, ideally your journey will, right now everyone is working from home, which is much better. But if you have to travel every day for 3 to 4 hours, I would say anyone who wants to get into filmmaking, the first thing they have to do is watch a lot of films. That's where you should start. No matter what you want to be in films, you want to be an actor, you want to be a music composer, editor, director, whatever it is, watch a lot of films. That's where I would start watch a lot of foreign films, I would say. So you can use that time of traveling to office and coming back home, the 3 4 hours, to watch 1 or 2 films every day. uh, uh, you know Spend about 2 to 3 years only watching films is what I would say. That should be your only thing. And then probably you can start taking up these workshops. There are a lot of filmmaking workshops happening in Bangalore, and there are a few film schools in Chennai or Mumbai. So you can always start with that. Then, since filmmaking today is all digital, getting your hands on a digital camera is not that difficult. In fact, you can use your phone and shoot a short film. It's that easy. So once you have your 3 to 4 or 5 years of solid preparation towards becoming a filmmaker is when you start shooting those short films, you know and start putting it on YouTube. Be open to feedback. That is very, very important. There are people who get offended very easily when you tell them that your work is, you need to improve. So we have the open mindedness to accept when someone says this is not working. That's how you grow. It's a very step by step process. You should have patience. But that's where I would start. If I'm starting today to become a filmmaker, this is what I would follow. Watch films 2 to 3 years, take up your workshops, start making short films, and then take it forward.
We have one question from Rohit. He wants to
Yeah.
know, back then when you were in corporate life and also doing films, how you used to manage things back then.
It's a very, I mean, see, so many people have asked me this question. Even my colleagues who used to work with me, they used to ask me, how do you go home and you'll be so tired? I mean, I used to work in a call center, which means I used to take 80, 100 calls per day. It was a very hectic job. So going home and spending time on watching the film and then sleeping, again getting up, again coming to office. So how do you manage this? I think this probably was very difficult for me with the first 2 or 3 months when I started it, but later it became a habit. They say that you need 21 days to develop any habit. Like, for example, going to gym. People join, they go for a month, and then they stop. You do it with everything. Diet, for example, you do it for a few days and then you get fed up and you leave it. So that should not happen. Once it becomes a habit, it's more like you do it unconsciously. You don't even think about it. So sleeping for 6 hours became a norm to me when I used to work with corporate, because it became a habit. I couldn't sleep beyond 6 hours even if I wanted to. So whatever extra time I got, I used to you know uh, put that into the preparation, watching films or attending workshops and all of that. So basically, make it a habit. That's what I was. It's not easy, but you have to do it.
Next question is from Gayatri Vijayan. She
Okay.
wants to know, was your family supportive when you wanted to pursue this dream as a filmmaker? And did you face any sort of criticism?
Surprisingly, my greatest support is my parents, my father and mother, and I have a sister, younger sister. All these three people have been like pillars. I mean, till now, till today, they are the most supportive people. I mean, there was not even one moment when my parents said, "Why do you want to do this?" It was all like, "Okay, you want to do it? Go ahead. We will do what we can." They took that. My mom pledged her jewels to get the money to send me to US to do a filmmaking course. So where do you hear a story like that? So that's supportive. My parents were that supportive when I said I want to be a filmmaker. So there was no criticism, nothing as such. I'm lucky, I should say.
So we have another question from who wants to know, when did you realize of as choosing filmmaking as your passion, then not engineering? I think you've
Uh,
also already answered it.
yeah, I already answered. And also, see, once again, I would never ever regret being an engineer, because people say that, okay, I shouldn't have gone for engineering. I should have directly become a filmmaker. But I'm telling you, I'm proud that I'm an engineer, because there is so much that you learn about life. It's not just about academics. Engineering it's a great lesson of, even for life, as I said. There are so many things that we learn, like for example, preparing for an internals, you have so less time. You have a semester which happens in 5 months, so you're running against time, and also I bring all that into my filmmaking now. For example, the kind of time I give to the pre-production of a film, how much time I spend in writing, how much time I spend in preparing a short list. I try to be in control as much as possible, and that's exactly we do in engineering as well, because we want to talk. We want to get good marks. That's what I do in my filmmaking profession as well, to make a good film. So I would never regret becoming an. I'm proud of being an engineer and a filmmaker, I would say.
Sir, I have another question. Like, not a
Yeah,
question, just an add-on point to this.
yeah,
So you mentioned that you're a mechanical engineer,
yeah.
and even during the movie, it's not only the digitalization that happened, but also there is a lot of mechanical stuff that will be running around, be it sound engineering, be it
Yeah,
visual stuff and all.
yeah.
So I hope that this plays a major role in your filmmaking also. And
Hmm.
how has this helped? How has mechanical engineering helped in your sound engineering or in VFX or in any of the design stuff or post production, sir?
Okay. See, I wouldn't say mechanical as a specific stream helped me in my profession, because uh, uh, whatever you said, the sound engineering or the visual effects, these are the things. There are people who do those things. People who are specialized to do only that. For example, there is a sound designer, a very good friend of mine who worked in both of my films. His name is Nitin Lukos. My music composer, his name is Jesse Clinton, and my cinematographer, his name is Andrew Ilo. So all these people are very much, they're experts in their own field. As a director, I don't really have to have deep technical knowledge about these things. My job is only to visualize the film and know what I want. As simple as that. I should know what I want, and I communicate the same to them, and they give me what I want, and I should be able to judge and take the work from them. So I wouldn't say there is any technical knowledge that I'm using in film industry. Of course, usage of computers is a good thing, because I use Excel a lot to do my shortlisting and to prepare myself. Things like that. I write my script on a software called Celtex, which is on the computer once again. So I use my I edit my films on Premiere Pro, which is once again on a computer, obviously. So that way, it is helping me with the usage of the computer, I would say. But there is no specific skill from mechanical that I'm bringing into filmmaking. Yeah.
We have one question from Likita P. Mahadikar.
Okay.
She wants to
Okay.
know, she wants hint from you about your upcoming plan because she's very curious to know about it.
Upcoming plan, as in next film.
Yes, upcoming projects and what are you up to? I think you've already told that as well, but she's very curious.
Okay. See, I'm writing an action film. So that's the most I can reveal about it right now. Something on a larger scale. I mean, if she has seen, I don't know if she's seen my previous two films. She can find Shuddhi on Netflix and Vinna on Z5. They were slightly smaller scale, as I told you. 1 CR was the maximum budget of that was Shuddhi, for example. So what I'm planning now is what I'm writing now is a much larger scale, probably with a known face, and I want to get into the big league. Make increase the budget as I go on and make bigger films. So yeah, that's the most I can tell right now. That it's going to be an action film.
We have another question from Purushottam. He wants to know what is your dream project? As every filmmaker has a dream project. What is your film? What is your dream project?
There is no one dream project as such. Okay. See, I want to balance the kind of films I make. If I have to give you an example, there is an actor called George Clooney in Hollywood. Most of you would know about him. So George Clooney is known for not just George Clooney. You see a lot of directors in the West. I mean, I follow a director called Steven Soderbergh, who is like, I really am influenced by him. So if you look at his films, he makes films on a really low budget as well as he makes films on really high budget. If you take the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, and Contagion, which was very much like this COVID situation happening right now, that was a film which was trending. So these are all the big films that he directed. At the same time, there was also a film called Unsane, UNSANE, which was shot in iPhone. So that's the range I'm looking for. I want to make films even with 25, 30 lakhs, and I also want to make a film with 100 crores. So there is no like one specific dream project I have in mind. We have to go with the flow because I don't have any like ready scripts or ideas in my mind. As I go on, I take every step depending on that particular time period.
We have one question from Nidhi. She wants to know any app or tool for beginners so that they can start filmmaking by now.
App for what? I mean, like, is it for editing or writing?
Yeah, editing and stuff like that.
See, editing is, I mean, I use Premiere Pro. Adobe Premiere Pro is what I use. But if you don't have a powerful computer, I mean, you need at least 8 GB RAM to run Premiere Pro. 8 GB, yeah, that's the least you need. Otherwise, you can also use the software called Sony Vegas. That is where I learned my editing. Sony Vegas is one of the software that can be used for home videos, or it is used for television in the West. And then Premiere Pro. These are the two softwares I use for editing. For writing scripts, I use Celtex. CELTX is one of the softwares. And right now, for the first time, there is a person from Karnataka who has written a software for script writing. It's called Scrite, SCRITE. So that's a software which has been launched recently by this company called Teriflix, and that's a really good software. I mean, you can find a lot of videos on how to use those softwares as well on YouTube. So these are the two major softwares I would say that can be used.
I have another question from my end, sir. Is the film fraternity very supportive to you considering the competition which we have? Is it supportive to you?
Film fraternity. Interesting question. The fraternity comes to your support only when they see you becoming a commercial success. That's the hard truth. You have to accept that. Till you become a big commercial director, no one is going to really, you know what I mean, right? I mean, that's how it is going to be. Unfortunately, I've experienced it myself. But the audience don't look at those things. That's the best part. Audience, if you give them a good film, they watch it and they follow you and they support you no matter what you do. But with the fraternity, it is more about success. You give them a commercial success, they'll be behind you. You become a failure, once again, they might go away from you. That's the hard truth of of this industry.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
I think we
a
are
lot
done
of
with the questions. Anyone?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Varun. I just have one thing. I have
Yeah.
more than a question. It's like a doubt. Okay,
Okay.
so given a chance to direct series, like there are so many series that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So given a chance to direct a series and a
Yeah.
movie, a single
Yeah.
movie, what do you prefer and why?
Right now, if you ask me, I want to do movies. See, because I mean, I keep giving this example. If you take a Sacred Games, for example, it became so big because it was Anurag Kashyap, and Anurag Kashyap made a lot of films before he made that series. You know what I mean? See, the brand, the way OTTs work is they look at how famous you are. If you are a well-known filmmaker, then they will use your name as well to promote the film, which will help the series, and which will help the series, and as well as it will help your brand as well. But when it is a lesser-known filmmaker who is directing a series, for example, the OTTs don't even talk about the director. They only talk about the name, the series. They don't talk about who directed it and who is behind the series. So because of that, me being a still a new filmmaker, I might not get the kind of exposure what I need if I take that route right now. So till I make a big commercial success, as I said, till I make my mark, I wouldn't want to take that route. But I would love to direct a series post that. Yeah.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, who was your initial role model in when you started your career as a film director?
I've never had like one role model as such. I mean, if you ask me, I mean, I can tell you based on my working style. I mean, who has been the influence on my working style? There are several people. The first person I would name is Steven Soderbergh, as I told you, a director by name Steven Soderbergh. I watched all his films so many times. And then there is this director, David Fincher. You would know David Fincher. Steven Spielberg is one of the directors, and Christopher Nolan is one of the directors. So these are the directors I follow a lot. I watch all their films multiple times, and I've learned a lot from watching their films. So yeah, that's the influence.
One question from my end.
Yeah.
Everyone has an aspiration that their movie should work and should make good money. So
Yeah.
what if the movie is not making good? What if people are not liking it? How to take that criticism? So
Uh,
every point we have something which we lack, and how to
yeah.
take.
See, you should never begin a film thinking consciously about making people like the film. You cannot have that as a target. It's basically about what excites me. For example, if I'm making a film, the first idea that comes to me about a film should be, for that matter, so what is there in this idea that has not been done before, or what is there in this idea that has not been done by that many people? What is the USP? What is the exclusivity of this idea? That's where I start. If you take my second film, Binna, the entire film happens in just there is one villa, there is one house in the outskirts of a city. The 85% of the film happens in just these two locations. So that is a kind of not something that you see so much in Indian films. Very rarely you see films like that. So that's the way I approach. How is my idea different or unique compared to the other ideas that are being quoted as films right now? The remaining result of what's going to happen to the film is not in my hands, obviously. I mean, which should be, thankfully, there was a great appreciation. People loved it. With Bhinna, going back to your questions about film fraternity, I didn't get the kind of support I wanted from the fraternity. There was a lot of criticism from the fraternity side, but the audience loved it. That kind of, I was a little disappointed initially when the fraternity was talking about the film, a lot of criticisms and all of that. But the moment it came out to the audience, I think that kind of compensated. They loved the film. So I think once again the same thing applies. I mean, if you make your film, you put all your heart, you're very sincere, but finally the film fails, there is nothing much you can do. You can't really sit on it and like think about it too much. You have to move on and make your next film. So yeah, That's what I think you have.
Considering the time, we have one last question. Do you have? We have question from Purushottam. Do you have any Indian filmmaker or films which inspired you?
I mean, as an audience, there are films that I love, a lot of them. But not as a filmmaker, there is nothing that has influenced me as such. I mean, if I have to name in Kannada, there is one Oscar-worthy film I would call is this film called Tithi that came recently. And then I loved a film called Gantu Mote, which is on Amazon Prime right now. That's a Kannada film once again. These two films I can name in the recent times, which I loved, Kannada films. Otherwise, I don't follow Bollywood much. I hardly watch Bollywood films. My Bollywood film list would be back, from 2000s, like Dil Chahta Hai, Laksh. I was a big fan of Farhan Akhtar back then. I used to watch all his films. Not after Dawn. I didn't like those films. But yeah, the first two films. And of course, Anurag Kashyap films. I watched that. And yeah, but there is no influence as such from those films on my work.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Srikhar.
Thank you so much for all your inspiring words and patiently answering all the questions, sir. It was a wonderful journey that you have gone through. So many ups and downs. Never lost your confidence. It's still the same. And then we wish you all the good luck for upcoming endeavors and hoping for the best. And thank you so much for being a good person. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And, yes, sir. So we have few people online. So if there are any confessions from your side, you can definitely do it. So we have audience in YouTube also apart from this.
Okay. I mean, you said more questions. Any questions?
No, any confessions from your end, sir?
I mean, I had a great experience. I mean, see, I keep doing this. My last talk was actually the TED talk I gave in November. Apart from that, if this COVID situation had not happened, I mean, people keep inviting me for this kind of talks. I enjoy it because when I give these speeches out of 100, if at least 10 people get something out of it and they want to follow their passion, that makes me feel really good.
Did we lose a network?
I think we are good. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope it was a great session. You have something to take away from this session today. And also request you all to please stay tuned for next week. Again, we have a new achiever who is joining us next week. So hope we have good session next week as well. I hope to see you all as well. Thank you.
Sorry, it got disconnected. There was a power cut.
Okay, sir. Okay. So yes, sir.
I just want to thank you again, sir. Thanks for being here. And,
my pleasure.
We have a few more achievers who are joining us next week as well. So I hope there is a many inspiring story for all of us.
Good luck. Good luck to your team.
Thank you once again, sir.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir. And before we end the call,
thank you.
We do provide our description and the works from others, sir, in a link below. So please do go and check out his works, and his Instagram account has been provided in the description too. So please do go and watch all his works. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.